Hi, this is Dan Gilvazan, and you're listening to the GeekCast Radio Network.
Jazz here, and I am so digging the GeekCast Radio Network.
Cliff Jumper, commence countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, ToyCast. Oh, yes. Listen in to the only toy podcast you will ever need.
Hello and welcome to an all-new generation of ToyCast. I am TF2 and Mike, and folks, it has been a while, hasn't it? This is episode 99.5 of ToyCast, only on the GeekCast Radio Network. For those of you who may be new to this podcast, we have been around since June 9th, 2011, I think. The last episode we did was December 9th, 2014, so it's been 7 years since the last episode. I already have episode 100 in the can, kind of. I've gotten several people together that have been on the show. Pia, the goddamn Proto-Man, I think even Optobotomus, and a bunch of other people to talk about how they like having their collections, like how do they like to collect their toys. And ToyCast is going to be seeing a resurgence, and the show will be returning because it's been a while, and the reason why I stopped the show in the first place was because one of our original co-hosts passed away. Most people will remember him. I don't know if my current co-host at this time will know who he is, but I'll introduce that person in a moment. But yes, I am now doing this because I'm pretty sure Gary, aka Optimus Scourge from the TFW 2005 boards, Gary Clark, he would want me to have this go on, and enough time has passed where I feel like I can continue on with this podcast, and we will be continuing it on with it, and we will tease how we're going to do that at the end of the show. For now, though, I would like to mop the floor with this burger. I don't know. Why are you called FloorBurger?
FloorBurger. How long of the story do you want?
As long as you need to get a decent answer out of you.
Okay. So the origin of the FloorBurger name, actually, I give that credit to David Draper. He came up with it as we were kind of bantering back and forth in a group. Long story short, long story long, long story annotated. I stopped at a really small flea market on the way down to Central Illinois. I want to say Gilman, Illinois. Used to have a little flea market run out of a warehouse right off the interstate. And I was driving down with a buddy of mine. He was in town. He literally flew back up from Florida to go down back to where he lived in Normal, Illinois, because he had some stuff in a storage locker he wanted to clear out. Mm-hmm. So we were on our way down, and we stop, and I buy this. I'm looking through a bin that this guy has of really sticky and really dirty toys, and I'm looking through it, and I'm starting to spot some stuff in there that I know is of value and really cool, because he was like, hey, everything in here is $5 a piece. And I'm looking through, and I look at him after I see he's got a couple of very valuable accessories and a couple of very valuable figures. He thinks it's just a box of toys. I know what it really is. So I say, would you do $50 on the entire box? He got it out of somebody's storage locker that, he just bought up a storage locker that had gotten abandoned. Mm-hmm. So for him, $50, like that probably was the amount he spent on the whole storage locker. So he was more than happy to sell me this box of toys. And inside the box, what kind of caught my attention was a obviously older toy in the style of Kenner Star Wars, but it was somewhere between the 5 and 6 inch scale. At first, I didn't recognize it, but I look at the belt buckle, and it was sort of a symbol between like a K and an R or something like that. and I recognized it as David Hasselhoff's character from Knight Rider. And I thought I did not know that toy existed at that point.
Ready to receive data. Commence transmission.
And I thought it was the coolest thing. So I continued down. I was staying by my brother who lives in Normal. I wash it up, and we can talk about sticky toys another day, because all of these, I don't, this was bad. And I just had stupid fun with them. And I started posting pictures of him traveling with me, because I was just like, David Hasselhoff, goofy person, had a very tragic video of him being extremely drunk, eating a burger on the floor.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I would post a lot of stuff with him. And I don't remember what spurred it, but like I said, Draper and I were just kind of bantering back and forth, and he was like, okay, whatever, FloorBurger, or something along those lines. Because he wasn't sure if I actually really truly liked David Hasselhoff, or if I ironically liked him. And I still don't know to this day what my stance on that is. But that's how I just kind of embraced it, and I liked it because it does kind of roll off the tongue a little bit. And it did give me a little bit of an incognito identity if I ever wanted to do anything in the toy world. So I just ran with it. And I took what, maybe was a, just a friendly jab, just a friendly, goofy nickname. And I enjoyed it immensely. So that's kind of the origin of that.
It's so funny because you are talking to a diehard Knight Rider fan. I met the man.
As Michael would say, thanks, pal.
And I've never seen an episode.
Kid?
Yes.
Shut up.
Really? Wow. I met the man in 1986. There are pictures of me online as a 6-year-old with him holding my CP hand, and we're doing the thumbs up. And right after that, and I wish I still had this picture. I don't think it still exists because my mom has been gone for a number of years now. But right after that, he took a picture with my mom. He picked her up like she wasn't nothing and held her like rescue style in his arms.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, God, I wish I still had that picture. But yes, David Hasselhoff, amazing. I wish I could interview the man at some point. Never have had the opportunity to do so. However, we are here to talk about toys. So this is Josh.
Hello.
He is the FloorBurger.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
And he is going to be... He's actually the reason why ToyCast is coming back, besides the fact that I kind of wanted to bring it back anyway. And like I said earlier, we'll tell you why that is later. But we are going to do a recap of the Chicago Toy Show 2021. April 25th, 2021 was the Chicago Toy Show, also known as, to most Illinoisians, or however you people call yourself in the plural, Kane County Toy Fair, Toy Show, whatever it is. Basically, Kane County.
Yeah, that's how most people just...
How many years have you been going to this thing?
So, truth be told, I think I first heard about it randomly on the internet in 2008, which really puts me as a newbie compared to some people I've met there. I don't know how long guys like David Duvall, who really are like the genesis of my knowledge of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember 2008, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. I found the ad. I'm like, I'm going to drive out there. But where I lived, it was about an hour. And I was kind of in between toy collecting. I was in like a very big transition point in my life in 2008 about whether or not I was going to even continue with it, because it sort of became a difficult area in my life. So I didn't go to it then. And then I went to it. I don't remember the first year I actually went to it. I don't remember if I had already been living with my wife at that point, or still in grad school and I was living with my mom at the time. And I don't remember the exact year. I want to say 2011. 2012 was probably my first year going. So been about 10 years that I've been, I would say 10 years would be a safe bet.
Very cool. Very cool. And the last one you went to as of now was April of 2019, because did they not have a show in 2020?
So the last show I actually went to was the October 2019 show.
Okay.
And I was selling at that one.
Okay.
So that was my last time selling. I did not get to go to the April 2019 show. I had missed the 2017, 2018, and 2019 April shows because for my other job, I was on like 8 to 10 day road trips that always overlapped that weekend every single time.
That sucks. But you went this year.
Yeah.
And did you go just the one day, the Sunday, or did you go to the preview days or anything like that?
So being a dealer, when I did sell there and I sold there for several years, I always went both days, obviously, because dealer setup day is typically Saturday. Mm-hmm. Sunday, if you are a dealer and you can get in and get your booth set up in the time you have before people start walking in, you're a better person than I. But I only went for Sunday this time. I was really, really busy the Saturday before. And the Saturday, if you want to go Saturday, it's like $50 to get in, unless you have a connection that can get you in.
Right.
And you have to do some hacking of the system, which I won't get into on live broadcasting. So no, I only went Saturday. I did get help getting in before the general public. I won't say how and I won't say who, but I did get in at about 7 in the morning, which was a huge help because wow, did it get crowded. Holy cats, did that whole show get crowded.
Now let me ask you this, because this is the first toy show you had been to since COVID hit.
Yeah.
How were they dealing with that? Like you say it's crowded, but were there any kind of thing that the organizers put together to make sure it wasn't that crowded?
So one thing they tried to do was widen the aisles. So that meant they had to cut down on some of the booths.
Okay.
So obviously, as they try to widen the aisles, you get a little bit less space. You got to start squeezing people out and you get a little creative. So depending on the year, there's a couple buildings that are open. And I'm surprised that if you can ever look at a layout map, it's the best way to explain it. There's 3 actual buildings that I would call actual buildings that human beings would want to occupy. And usually that's referred to as like the main building, the trades building, and the doll building. Now, the reason it's called the doll building is that for years, in my first couple of years there, that is almost strictly where the antique doll dealers were. If you wanted nightmare fuel, you go into that building.
Okay.
And for my first few years there, I just heeded everybody's advice and I did not go into that building ever. I just refused to. Apparently, every so often, dealers who caught cancellations would often be put in there. So you would have like a stray action figure dealer next to a big creepy doll dealer.
Okay.
And I've always heard that's where the best deals could be found. But the doll building, despite its ventilation and running water and plumbing and electricity, the doll building was closed this year. So they had the main building, which is a really nice, maybe 10, 12-year-old building. It's about 2 stories tall. They actually have the nicest bathrooms, and they typically would serve food out of there if they were allowed to serve food. COVID, they're not. Then you have the trades building, which is basically just kind of 2 kind of warehouse-style buildings put together.
North and south, yep.
Yeah, north and south. And they have a really gross bathroom in there, but it is the closest bathroom to the agriculture buildings that I typically occupied because they were the cheapest buildings. But there's the rabbit, poultry, and then there's like the sheep. And I can't remember what the last building was.
Swine.
Probably swine. Yeah, it is a swine building. I think it was the sheep and the swine buildings that were open air. It was just a rooftop. Mm-hmm. And that was actually where I felt the most comfortable the whole time I was there because it was open air. You had plenty of space to move around. But the poultry building and the rabbit building, they had people against the walls on either side. And then they had booths in the center, which I'm glad dealers got to get those booths. I would actually say it would have been better if they did not have them and just found other space for them because it still created bottleneck situations. And it like this is the most amount of people I've been around since COVID. Mm-hmm. Like January 2020, my wife and I are coming back from the Dominican. We're going through customs and that was jam-packed crowded. I don't do well with crowds, but I could handle that. Mm-hmm. Then literally a year and 4 months later, this is the most amount of people I've been around in that entire time. And it wasn't easy to get around. A lot of people were just kind of stopped, like you're inches away from another person. I'm used to keeping 3 feet, 6 feet, whatever the mandate is. And it was not easy to move around, period, end of story. There were points where I could not get past people. If there was a fire, we were all dead. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Kane County Toy Show organizers, but
Yep.
I'm calling it as I see it.
You got to do better, guys and gals, because that's ridiculous. Like, just in general, look, we're still living in this. Yes, we have the vaccines now, whatever else. The fact that stores are removing, like, aisle this way, aisle that way, makes me so mad, because you're still letting people bunch up. And if I need to get to something that two other, like, perfect example the other night, and one of the grocery stores I go to does not have the room to spread out like a Walmart does. But there was a stalker, not stalker, but a stock person. You know what I'm saying? A soda dude. All right. It was a male. He was a soda dude. He was unpacking bottles and stuff, sitting there talking to a female employee, and it was like they were on a damn date. And I'm like, I just need to get 3 bottles of 7-Up Zero Sugar, or whatever Diet 7-Up's called now.
Yeah.
And the whole carton thing, well, I'm like, you can't everybody has to do better. We're not this, and I'm not trying to make this a COVID cast or anything like that, but it's like, since you're talking about the toy show and you're talking about how much room there really isn't, like, I would hope that at the next one that they will make some more room to allow, because for me, it's not even the COVID part for me. It's the claustrophobia and the stress of being around a bunch of people at the same level.
Yeah.
Like you said, the anxiety of it. Like, I can't. Like, I need 6 to 12 feet away from each physical person. Like, I don't want to have somebody right next to me at all.
And that's why Saturday is probably the better day for me. Now, getting the $50 together to afford that is not an ideal situation. However, just for the sake, like, if I had the choice based on my experience this past Sunday versus Saturday or Sunday, I probably would have gone Saturday. I think I would have found the same deals. I think I would have found all the same stuff. Sometimes dealers bring more stuff Sunday. They might do half of their setup Saturday, and then maybe half is undercutting it. I would say, they would do the majority of their setup, just enough to get the bulk of their stuff in, and then maybe they bring a couple more boxes. Like, I would go home and say, oh, I've got more space than I thought, and I would go home and grab more stock, or, I would stop at a thrift store. And there have been times I'd pick up an entire shelf's worth of stuff at a thrift store on a miraculous savers run and be able to bring it to the show the next day. I think luckily most people were wearing masks. Now, there might be people listening to this that we both know that aren't big fans of masks or didn't wear masks. And like you said, you don't want to turn this to a big COVID show. And I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But, I would not have gone to this show if I was not fully vaccinated, if my wife was not fully vaccinated, if my parents were not vaccinated, if my in-laws weren't vaccinated. And anybody who's close to me that I do come in contact with, like, if one of them was not fully vaccinated, I would not have gone. Just to be on the safe side, because there were people who were not wearing masks. And, I could go on my soapbox and talk about all that, but, we'll pass over that. But for the most part, I think the best thing they could have done is they have many other buildings they could have used. They could have spread out. Maybe they could have. I'm saying that without knowing why they didn't open the doll building. I think they could have come up with more options to put dealers outside. Bearing bad weather, I understand why maybe they didn't want to plan for that. But I think I would hope in the future, if this is still bad, I would hope by July. Well, I heard rumors of a July show there, but I hope by October that this isn't nearly as bad and things are going to be a lot easier. That if they have to be outside, they come up with a way to do it. Because I heard a rumor about July. It may have been because they also run antique show festivals, whatever you want to call them there. The Kane County Antique Show is also pretty well known, so maybe that's what he was referring to. Who knows? But we'll find out.
According to their website, the next show is October 24th, 2021. The next show after that is April 24th, 2022. So that's according to their website as of this recording, April 27th, 2021. And whether that changes or not in the future, folks, don't blame us.
But yeah, I think they could have at least... Where I found myself to be the most claustrophobic, which was the rabbit and the rabbit and the poultry building. Those were the two where I felt the most trapped and claustrophobic. And literally, I literally just, like, as soon as I could get outside, I dove out a side door. But anyways, so that's that. Yeah.
So your haul this year at Kane County, or the Chicago Toy Show as it is known by its actual name, you got a lot of grails this year. I'm looking at these photos and I'm like, the first thing I notice is, wow, Captain Planet's legs look really, really yellow.
And there's a story about that Captain Planet.
Okay, good. But let's start with the first photo you posted on the Toy World Order Facebook group. It is the all Batman stuff.
This is Kevin Conroy, and I am the goddamn Batman.
Gotham City and all that stuff.
So the Tonka RPM's Gotham City stunt set, something I had years ago that over time, and if you actually look at the pictures, you ever see this thing, you ever look it up, there's a lot of individual pieces. The one thing I remember about this set as a kid, and I had this as a kid, I don't remember when I got it, but when it comes to those sort of pull string, pull ripcord toys, and there's been dozens of them, from He-Man, which was Dragstore, and then there was the pull speed ahead Ghosts in Ghostbusters.
Right.
Similar technology here, but I have to say, I don't know how they designed this. I don't know what they did with it, but it is one of the best, the fastest, the most persistent momentum I've ever seen on a type of toy like this. And as a kid, I remember my brothers and I could set up the craziest stunt scenes. And we would go to the Six Flags Great America up here, and they had a Batman stunt show that we were obsessed with. We loved this stunt show. We saw it every time we were there. It was the coolest stunt show, and we felt like we were playing with toys right out of the stunt show.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw this, it was sealed in the box. I was talking to the person running it, a woman about my age, I would say, who just decided that she wanted to dedicate her life to being a toy dealer. That's what she just did with her life, and she had a great variety and really, really cool stuff. And it was her first show at the Kane County Toy Show, and we were talking up a storm about the booth, and I was telling her about this set, and I saw that she actually had a NECA, she had a couple of NECA Ninja Turtle 2-packs precariously balanced and stood up on a top shelf. And I told her, as soon as people get in here, they're going to bump that shelf and those are going to take a dive. I've done this enough. I know the type of shelf. I know the people. And I said, can I just help you stage your display a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
And so I set it up and I moved some stuff around. It was still perfectly visible.
Mm-hmm.
Prices could be seen. And I even shook the table and showed her it wouldn't fall over. And she knocked like 10 or 15 bucks off the total price for this thing. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I got it and it was awesome. And that was one of my grail might be an exaggeration, but it definitely was something that I've been watching for a couple of years just to find it somewhere.
It's what you said in the post. You're talking about your grails and you counted like 4 or 5 different ones. So I'm just going through the pictures as they,
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I don't mean to use the word grail loosely, but yeah.
Yeah. No. We would never. I mean, after all, we don't want to choose poorly.
Yeah. No.
Next picture is Shell Donnie. What's Donnie doing with his shell back there?
Okay, so Storage Shell Donatello. So another side story. So I don't have a ton of home videos from when I was a kid, but there's one home video that survived and my brother digitized. And in that home video, and eventually one of these days, I want to do sort of a live reaction video to the things we're getting and seeing. But that Christmas, my brothers and I all got the Disguise Turtles. So like Space Cadet Raph and Samurai Leo and Undercover Don and Surfer Mike and that Storage Shell Don.
Yep.
And a couple of toy shows ago, probably about 5 years ago, I picked up I think it's the Surfer Michelangelo, sorry, for $5. And I will tell you one thing about the Kane County Toy Show. Years ago, I found a table that had 3 full boxes of packaged Ninja Turtle toys for $5 a piece.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Just a couple years ago. So I grabbed Genghis Frog and that one. And then when my brother digitized that video and I looked and I saw those were the 4 that we got. There was a couple other things that we got packaged that, like, I don't really want to get the Ninja Turtle helicopter, the Turtlecopter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get that package because that's going to be way too much money. There's a couple other things that we got the Turtle Cycle packaged. not really on my list of things to get packaged. I felt that getting the packaged turtles were good enough. So I've been chasing down that storage shell Donnie. He was the last one I needed, and it's been about a 5 or 6 year quest to get all 4 of these, or 5 of these rather. So I finally have them. I don't keep a lot of carded stuff, but what I do is all pretty meaningful. So finally got it, and that was something that ends a very long quest, and that was I was very grateful. It was I'm going to give a shout out at the end to the store owner and the shop that, if you don't mind, that helped me out with the hookup.
No, sure, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, I literally, I'm not an emotional dude, but I got very emotional when he helped hook me up with that, because it was something I've been looking for so long.
I mean, you know, that's the thing. Even if you're not an emotional person, when something hits you like that, especially something from your child, like you had this as a child and you're now being able to get it again as an adult, of course you're going to be emotional over it. I mean, that's just life. That's just the way we are.
But it was also the end of a quest. Like
exactly.
I think once we become adults, you know, there are certain things like I finally mowed the lawn, or I finally got my taxes turned in. You know, those are the end of, but I feel like, you know, sometimes those quests, depending on it, you have to create them for yourself. Sometimes those quests are few and far between.
I don't know, man. I don't really think death and taxes should be a quest. I mean, taxes you have to pay every year. So anyway.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens this year. No, sorry, I'm just kidding, IRS. Let's just forget that I said that.
IRS? Really? They really listen to this? They barely listen to the people that call them and complain. All right, also in this second image is a opened Quicksilver. Let's see, a yellow-legged Captain Planet. I mean, it looks like he's been hooking a little too hard. And
a little jaundice.
Yeah, very jaundice. A Batman 89, Batmobile, Batwing, and Joker van. I almost said truck, but it says van in the package. I can see that. So, any stories behind these?
So, you know, one thing I always explain to people, that there's almost a story behind everything I collect. I can point to just about anything and tell you some sort of personal background on it. And that kind of goes the same with all of these. So the Quicksilver, massive grail for me. One of the things I've been trying to do in the last few years of my collection is to try to reclaim some of the stuff I had as a kid, at least one version of it. If it's applicable, if it's affordable, I might try to get the entire line. So Bucky O'Hare is a great example of a line that was small enough that it's really easy. Like at the time when I was collecting it, you could get the entire series, all the vehicles, very easily for very, very cheap amount of money. So sometimes when I, as a kid, just had Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Air Marshal, I will get the entire series. The same goes with like Toxic Crusaders. I just had Toxie, but eventually, because it was really cheap, I got the entire set. Quicksilver was the only one I had as a kid and loved it, thought it was awesome. I loved the soft goods cape. I loved the gimmick he had. Everything was really cool about it. And the figure just disappeared. I have a feeling he may have been flown, for lack of a better term, and he did not survive his flight. So that was just one of the last ones I've been looking for on my list of like, what are some toys? Like when we were off air, you had asked me, you know, what, or you had told me some example questions that you may ask people. And one of them was like, what's one of the earliest toys you remember owning? And Quicksilver was one of those. And I remember just being fascinated with it as a kid because he had the vac metal paint on him. He was shiny. He had you don't often get action features and figures that are very applicable to what they do. And just throwing those arms up so he's got wings, I was like, this is cool.
It was.
And then when I learned how pricey they become, getting that was just like, again, I got emotional over it because, you know, it was an amazing hookup that I got. And it, you know, it was just one of those last pieces where it's like, am I almost done with my collection? Because this is one of the last pieces I got. The Captain Planet, small story on that. There's been a dealer at Kane County. Unfortunately, I forgot to catch his name because he told me he was retiring this year. He's always been a guy who had these blue bins tons of these blue bins, and he always had Exo Squad, Transformers, Power Rangers, usually incomplete, a lot of beater stuff that's just for parts. And, you know, he's just like, you know what? You see a bunch of stuff, make a pile, we'll make a deal. And he always offered a very affordable, very easygoing deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you'd walk away with great stuff for like $2 a piece. And I saw the Captain Planet, and I've got a very minty clean Captain Planet on my shelf right now, but it's not this one that has like the weird like string thing on his back to make him simulate flight. And I was like, all right, I'll get this, I'll clean him up, and then I'm going to try to just, you know, clean him up with some nice paint, make him look a little nicer, and then he'll probably sit on my desk at work. So
in the third image here, it's another one of, it's the other side of the second image. We have Scareglow, Trapjaw, RoboCop.
So Scareglow and Trapjaw from the new Origins line. Those were just fun little finds. Like, I'm trying to get some key guys from the Origins. My brothers were more into He-Man than my oldest brother especially. I inherited a lot of those as I was a kid, because I was about 4 years younger than my other brother. So I would get a lot of that stuff. Some of it's disappeared over time. I've sold off some of my classics. So I like the Origins line because I'm just filling in the gaps of the stuff I sold from classics, and that's about it. But the RoboCop, again, one of those things I loved as a kid. I never got the actual RoboCop figures from Kenner. If you remember, they had the cap gimmick. My mom refused to buy those for us.
Yep.
Because she worried about getting in our eye or hurting ourselves or whatever.
Yeah.
So I never got it.
You'll shoot your eye out. Yep.
Well, and it's funny because I think we had a cousin or a family friend who had one of those gumball machine dispenser cap guns you could get, the like little tiny ones.
Yeah.
And we have a very distinct memory of him firing it off and something getting into his eye and being really upset. I think my mom thought the same thing was going to happen to us. So it's fine. But this is from the RoboCop TV show from the mid-90s, made by Toy Island. And the RoboCop figure from that is apparently very much in demand. The guy had the entire set carted for I think it was like $35.
Oh, wow.
And I only needed, well, the RoboCop by himself is $35 or $40.
That's a good deal.
And I was like, well,
right.
The other cops are just kind of chump change at this point, and apparently the Commander Crash green guy is worth a couple bucks. So I'm like, I will get it just for the RoboCop, and then I'll dump off the others at some point in time. And so I will have a complete RoboCop set, or at least as far as I view. So, you know, just like that's one of those deals that you find at Kane County where people just are like, I just want to get rid of it. Here you can have the entire set for the price of the one figure in the set, because I'll never sell the others.
Right. It's one of those all-in deals. Like you said earlier, here, I'll give you $50 for this entire box. But in this case, you know, RoboCop himself, like you said, $30, $40. But if you can get the whole box for that, great. You know, and you're not there, to my knowledge, you're not there to just buy these and offload them. You're there, you know, like you've already said, you're there to recapture moments and stories of your childhood.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I will link this other episode to this other toy podcast in the link description for our episode, because there's no way I could interview Pixel Dan the way that Duvall and Dave did on Toy World Order's David Duvall's Toys and Collectibles.
Yeah.
So people go listen to that episode. It'll be in the show notes description. But you got
The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is available for pre-order now. This official guidebook is published by Dark Horse Books and features over 750 pages of photos and information on your favorite He-Man and She-Ra action figures. And don't miss out on the exclusive bundle pack available for pre-order now from PowerCon. This bundle includes the official guide as well as an exclusive character guide supplement that you won't be able to buy anywhere else. Don't miss out. You have the power.
personalized autograph copy of the Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe from Pixel Dan Erdley.
So I am beyond honored to be the first person to actually own that. Now, that's by 10 minutes, because 10 minutes later, somebody else bought one from him. Like, we literally walked down the aisle.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't know he was going to be there. I was in communication with Duvall, and Duvall and I were going to meet up because I was going to sell him a Metroplex that I had that had a lot more parts than what he did. He actually describes that in his Kane County toy haul video that he just put up.
That'll be in the show notes too, folks.
I know that he liked G1 a lot, and you know, that's his ideal. Went to go find them, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're both here." You know, I'm like, "Oh, I thought Draper was going to be with them." It was actually Pixel Dan, and so I'm talking to Pixel Dan. I was just congratulating him on the book, and he has a satchel on his hip, you know, and he pulls out the book. I think his satchel perfectly fit 2 books. It looked like it was custom made, like a custom made satchel for these 2 books. And I look at it and I'm just like in awe because I have this on my wish list. I didn't pre-order it yet. I was secretly hoping to get it as a gift one day. And I'm looking at it and it is just not only a wonderful book, but he's like, yeah, I have these for sale right now. I'm like, you mean I could buy this today? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, when is it coming out? And he said in about a week. And I'm like, yes, I would love to. And he's like, great, because you know, he has it with him. And you know, I can't remember which store he mentioned. I think it might have been Big Bad Toy Store. He's getting the best percentage of each sale, but he said that just buying it directly from him was the best way. And I'm like, done. I mean, I'm not the biggest He-Man fan. I appreciate He-Man. You know, I have 3 Castle Grayskulls. I have 1 Classics and 2 of the original. You know, I have a bunch of the figures. It's not my main toy line by any means, but I will tell you, it is a phenomenal, well-made book. It sets a very, very high bar for action figure collection books.
Right.
I've had a couple. This one is not only comprehensive, it impresses everybody I've shown it to. I showed it to my mom and she's flipping through the pages and she's like, I remember buying that one. And I remember that one. Ooh, I remember that one. That one was crazy. And she's just looking through it and she looked like a fan again. I showed it to my wife. Same thing. She's like, I've seen that on your shelf. And collectors are going to love this book. But the fact that non-collectors picked it up and they're like, wow, this is really cool. I actually recognize, or I learned a bunch of stuff about this. This is such a well-rounded book. If anybody's listening who's debating whether or not they should buy it, buy it. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. And even if you kind of like He-Man, buy the book. It is extremely well made. Did I promote it enough?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully I'll get a link from Dan directly, whether it's the VBTS link or another link that he may want to use that I'll put in the show notes as well. Pretty much anything we talk about on this show that I can put in the show notes or in the post on the website, geekcastradio.com, in case you don't know, it'll be there.
Right.
As long as I remember to do it.
Great, yeah.
You know, so, yeah. How did this year, even though it's, you know, we're living in the midst of COVID and there was still a bunch of people and the anxiety and all of that, how did this year stack up to previous years that you had been to the Chicago Toy Show at Kane County Fairgrounds?
So, to be perfectly honest, I think I've only shopped it once, and that was my first year going maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Only shopped it once, and I barely remember my haul. In terms of things that were available, it's very, very clear to me that the prices were higher. And I attribute that to the fact that the collector market is exploding right now.
Right.
And I think it's exploding for a couple of reasons. And this could be an entirely different show we get into. But I joked with some people, you know, you're going to have people walking into this with fresh stimulus checks ready to go, you know, and I know a lot of people who had those stimulus checks come in, they needed them, they embraced them, they used them.
Yeah.
And I know some people who got them and they're like, I don't need this. So you know, for bills or for mortgage or rent or anything, some people are just like, I'm going to use this as fun money. And that's one thing. But I've even heard more conversations about how collectibles right now, non-toy people or people who are vaguely interested in toys are now getting into it, not because they love the hobby, but because they're seeing it as a commodity. So you basically have like stockbroker types coming in, and the rumor going around was that Saturday there were some big money sales going on. Thousands upon thousands of dollars were being, you know, spent. Like rumors of people spending in the upwards of $50,000 on just Saturday alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there was some, and the show I want to give a shout out to, or the story I want to give a shout out to is Times Past Collectibles in Chicago. Very great place. They specialize in a lot of very high-end, high-quality toys. So they have a lot of graded, they have a lot of carded, a lot of really rare, obscure stuff that I've never seen in, on the card, and very, very high quality, not like a beat up card. Like, they look nice, and they're very, very good at getting that stuff. I don't know how they do it, but they do. They're a really great example of the high quality stuff that is now being sold at these shows. There's always been good stuff, but they're sort of trying to get a corner on that market of really, really nice stuff. And yeah, I mean, I really have the feeling that there are people coming out of the woodwork saying, this is a possible commodity market. I'm going to jump in it, because let's be honest, Food Fighters, handful of years ago, right around the time that Tour Old Order frequenter Adas Barone went to Kane County, I had a booth. I had 3 boxes full of Food Fighters I was trying to sell, and couldn't get them to move for $5 to $10. And those have tripled, quadrupled in price now. And just in those couple of years, what was a $5 Food Fighter that couldn't move is now $30-$40 if it's beat up and missing an arm.
Yeah, that's not good. And you want to know the funny thing is the good old ADAS, not only is he the intro and outro to Toy World Orders, Dave and Duvall's Toys and Collectibles, he also did all of, I think, exception of one, maybe, all of the DC Comics He-Man and the Masters of the Universe episodes with me over on the pull bag. So I have years worth of Baron on a podcast. I'm actually just looking at it now. We go all the way back to the 2012, 2013 series. Yeah. Very first episode was, June 5th, 2013. The 12-issue the 6-issue miniseries or whatever it was. But yeah, we've covered all that stuff over on the Pullback, our comic podcast. So yeah, once ADAS is where he needs to be, I'm sure he'll make an appearance with us on the show at some point.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We're gonna, he's getting his stuff figured out, but I'm actually looking up on Facebook to see when. I'm sure we have at least one picture tagged with both of us. But yeah, I mean, the prices of things have shot up so high, so ridiculously high. I can't blame people for saying like, okay, this is going to be a good long-term investment. Let's get into it. Let's see what happens. So what's funny is there is an equilibrium price that kind of gets hit at the toy shows because so many dealers go walk around and they see what other people are pricing stuff at. So that does help keep prices to a decent level. But, I had a hard time finding things at the deals I thought they were going to be. Like one dude had this pizza shooting Ninja Turtle. It was Raphael. He was complete, but he was asking $30 on it. And I'm thinking, I always think in my head, like, okay, what's worth $30 in the stores right now? When I'm going through these prices, what's equivalent to that? Like $30 is 5 days at Starbucks, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know if you've ever seen that animated GIF of the guy from The Hangover where he's got the mathematical equations like popping up in front of his head.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But that's sort of me when I'm seeing a price like that on a vintage Ninja Turtle. And I was trying to pick it up for a buddy. And it was complete and had all the pieces, and he was firm at $30. And I wasn't going to be the dude to just pop out the eBay listings and see what it's selling for. I'm not that guy. And, we started trying to figure out like, okay, well, if I bought more, could I get this? I'm like, you don't have anything else I want. And that doesn't solve my problem of not wanting to spend more with you. So I started asking him like, hey, would you do 20, whatever, you'll have $20 in your hand. You might not sell this. And I kept coming back. I went there a couple times throughout the show and he didn't sell it and he just wouldn't budge on it. And then eventually I found it for $10, 3 booths down, not complete, but and my buddy didn't want it complete. And I was like, okay, cool. But there was this belief there that I got that I felt prices were high and people were going to pay them.
Oh.
And that's why people were not budging on prices very often.
Yeah, it's the toy game has has changed a lot, and this could be another future episode of this show at some point. But compared to the time we started this podcast a decade ago, the time that it ended 7 years ago, back then we were in the middle of Matty Scalper and Battle Cat and all of that BS. And it's like you said, even non-toy collectors now are coming up to this stuff. Oh, this is a commodity. This is this. This is that. Most people, some people may or may not want it as, like your buddy may not want it. It's okay if it's not complete. Others, I want it complete on the card, in the box, whatever. So let me ask you this. This is one of the questions on something that's going to be coming up in the podcast. But are you, and I already clearly know the answer from looking at your haul video, are you keep it in the box, don't touch it, or are you open it up and play with your toys?
I am both.
Okay.
For different reasons.
Okay.
So there are certain things that I will want out of the package. Part of my view, if I have a very valuable toy that I keep in the package, it's going to be for the very sheer purpose that eventually I will be reselling it. So if I know if it's something that in the past I've dropped a lot on,
okay,
or something that I know is high in value, if it's staying in the package, it's because I'm going to resell it. The stuff that I have on my shelves, if I were to ever actually take pictures of it and show you, not a lot of value is in the package.
Okay.
I've got the entire set of the Waterworld toys in the package, if that tells you anything.
Wait. You mean Kevin Costner, Waterworld? They made toys from that movie?
Yes, they did, and they're very well known for being beyond ridiculous, and it's I keep it around for several reasons. But yeah, they did make Waterworld toys. There's like 1, 2... How many different Kevin Costners? 1, 2, 3. There's 4 different versions of Kevin Costner. They made the Deacon, Dennis Hopper. They made a couple other side characters, a couple other bad guys, and they made the boat. It's one of those mid-90s Kenner lines that, as a kid, you just embrace those movie toy lines that maybe got a series or 2. They were ridiculous. They had nothing to do with the movie. But they're actually relatively well-made toys. They have all of your typical Kenner gimmicks of the time. You can see that they borrowed stuff from I want to say Ghostbusters. People might argue that. I think they borrowed stuff from Ghostbusters. They definitely borrowed stuff from Batman and Predator. There's a lot of crossover stuff. They just reused a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I keep Waterworld in the package because I have one open and I have one in the package. And to me, it's just the ultimate expression of me as a collector, because it's just weird. It's important to me. I don't care. For me, I'm not apologetic about collecting Waterworld toys, but I have some of my favorite all-time toys, like the neon yellow underwater attack Batman from Batman Returns.
Yep.
I have that package, not because it's valuable, but because
it looks good. Yeah, it looks good in the package. I mean,
yeah, Skeleton Warriors, the aforementioned Ninja Turtles. I've got who's up there? I've got just random Toy Biz X-Men from the 90s. I've got the Marvel Legends Captain America, the Thor hammer I Am Worthy Captain America figure, because I was traveling. It was up in the North Woods of Wisconsin. It was the last time I was going to be up there probably in my entire life. And I was like, this seems appropriate. So no, I mean, I do keep some stuff in the package, but it's usually not because I'm like, ooh, I want to keep it valuable. I love having stuff loose because I think if you're going to keep it in the package, you might as well have a picture of it in the package and just hang that up on your wall. That's my view.
Right.
But for other people, if you want to have some packaged stuff on your shelf, go nuts with it.
Exactly. I am currently... This is more to update the listeners than you, but you'll also know this because you've I don't know, I might have shared my toy album. From 2005 to 2011, I collected a lot of stuff. Transformers, He-Man, all kinds of stuff that I liked or stuff that I wanted to get from my childhood, and things like you've been talking about in this episode of the show. And then somehow, some way, I don't know, I went down the Funko rabbit hole because Funko Pop reminds me of Mighty Mugs. And I had a lot of Mighty Mugs back in the day. People will listen to this show and will know when I was talking about Mighty Mugs 10 years ago on this podcast. And for me, most of the time they stay in the box because I think they look cool in the box. Like you said, with your with your Batman. Now, a lot of my Funko Pops currently are in storage back in Indiana, and the ones that I keep getting here out in the state of Washington where I'm living currently, they just currently sit on the table. I don't have any shelves. We live in an apartment. I'm not unless I can do it safely without damaging the walls, I'm not putting shelves up. I know I can get shelving units that aren't wall mounted and whatever else, and that's fine, and I will eventually, but it's one of those things where right now, I think the only ones that I want out of the box, because I think they're going to look cooler out of the box, is the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I just got those recently. Rock'em Sock'em Robots Funko Pops.
I have two personal feelings about Funko Pops.
Uh-oh.
One is they are very approachable. They keep everything in scale in the similar design. So you can literally put Freddy Krueger and Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street on the same shelf, and they're going to look like they live in the same universe, which I think is one of the coolest parts of Funko Pops. Mm-hmm. So I think if people really get into it for that reason, they find something they like, I think that's great. I think collecting should be for everybody. It should be approachable. Everybody gets a chance to jump into it. My other thing with Funko Pops is just probably the same complaint you've heard from other people. There's just too many, and everybody's trying to sell them at toy shows now.
Okay, and I understand where you're coming from, that there is too many. In total, according to my Funko app, I have 106. I did sell a few of them a couple years ago. If I hadn't sold those, I would probably be approaching over 150. For me, the reason why, besides the fact they remind me of Mighty Mugs, as the product themselves, Funko Pop, why I like them is you're never going to get a nice little representation of something that you've never gotten before. Yes, there were the starting lineup figures for NBA, MLB, and starting lineup was a whole thing with Kenner and whatever. I had a bunch of starting lineup figures as a kid, but I'm never going to get a really good, Transformers masterpiece level Larry Bird at a decent price, where I have the Larry Bird Funko Pop, looks just like the guy from the 80s when he was playing with the Celtics. That's what Funko Pops are for me.
Oh, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And yes, I do have a bunch of them that are just, oh, hey, I like this thing, whatever. But I have Comic Book Guy from The Simpsons. Comic Book Guy is, I haven't announced this yet over on the Pull Bag, but at some point he's going to be the new mascot of the Pull Bag because, hello, it's Comic Book Guy from The Simpsons.
That's great.
As a toy, and I've never actually, and I'm sure there are, and I'm sure people listening to this will say, hey, yes, there was an actual Comic Book Guy figure at some point or another. That's fine, great. I like him.
He's hard to get.
I like him in the Funko Pop style overall. Like John Wick. I'm sure there are plenty of John Wick action figures that some toy company made. I don't know which one has the John Wick lines. But the fact that Funko did a John Wick 3 version with the little dog next to it, that's why I like Funko Pop John Wick kind of thing.
Oh, and I totally agree that when it comes to action figure lines, the more you can keep things to look like they all exist together, the better.
Yep.
So, and that's always been one of my guidelines for collecting, is that they have to sort of live in harmony, because even as a kid, I wanted to play with all of my toys together. I didn't like segregating them. I didn't like the fact that my Exo Squad, which are built almost exactly the same as G.I. Joes, were about an inch too short to hang out with G.I. Joes. Mm-hmm. So the Exo Squad figures were usually the children in the G.I. Joe world. It's a little weird when I look at it now, because I keep them on very distant shelves, but that was something that always bothered me. And now the way I kind of collect is a lot of the stuff that lives together on the shelves are things that look like they would be in the same universe. So I'm very, very particular about the things that I get. And Funko Pop is one of those things that sort of has circumvented the scale issue in toys. Mm-hmm. That, like you said, you can have Larry Bird and you can have the Angry Beavers chilling together. They're going to look fine together. They're going to be at the same scale together, and it's going to be fine. But you look at a really good example. I think it was the Bandai. Was it Bandai who did Thundercats in like the early aughts.
I remember that LJN did it back in the day, but I don't remember who did it in the early aughts.
But they did it in like a wacky scale that was actually closer to the original vintage figures, but didn't fit anything else anybody ever had. And then they changed the scale, and the design of the toys wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
So I stick to like the 6-inch scale, the G.I. Joe scale, and like the Ninja Turtle scale. That's sort of where I'm at, because even as an adult, I just like the visual of them being close. So that's even with the Ninja Turtles why I haven't gotten the Super 7 Ninja Turtles, because they're a little bit bigger than I would like them to be. So it's weird stuff like that. But I respect the heck out of Funko Pop. But I just hate the fact that I've knocked over tables filled with them trying to get through a toy show. But that's just me.
Like I said, it's one of those things where for me, it's like, okay, so another perfect example. And I'm so happy for I spent $5. Funko every now and then will run a promotion. And a promotion they ran late 2019 was buy 3 bottles of Diet Dr. Pepper, and you can mail away take a picture of the proof and send that in and whatever, and now back in the day it would have been mail it in, whatever. And then 4 to 8 weeks you'd have a figure. They had a Little Sweet Funko Pop contest. And I'm like, I love the Little Sweet commercials. And back when the Little Sweet campaign was going on, I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy. Holy crap, it's Justin Guarini from season 1 of American Idol. Oh my God.
Little Sweet sliding down the banister. Oh yeah. Little Sweet defying gravity.
Is that Little Sweet?
Little Sweet spinning out the spin cycle. Oh yeah.
Do you work here?
No, Little Sweet is self-employed.
That's awesome.
Little Sweet sliding out on his knees.
He's hot. I'm thirsty too.
Diet Dr. Pepper. It's the sweet one.
And I have the Funko Pop right there. Maybe one day I'll get him to sign it if I ever get an interview with him. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing, folks. ToyCast is here to basically be fun. That's what we're here to do. That's the only thing we're here to do. And we will have interesting discussions. We will have other things coming up. One of the things that I'm actually going to be doing in the future over on the Pull Bag, and I keep mentioning the Comic Book Podcast, not because I want people to go listen to that as well, because there are over 400 episodes of that show in 8 years. Over there, I started a thing called Origins, where I have 25 questions that I ask people of how they got into or out of reading comic books. I am now applying that to toys, cartoons, and other things on the GeekCast Radio Network. So ToyCast will have Origins episodes where I have, currently it's at 26 questions because I have to move some stuff around, but I will have questions that I will do one-on-one interviews with, one-on-one podcasts. You and I will do an episode for this. I'll do another episode with other people, that kind of thing. Basically, it's a one-on-one. So like you and I will do your episode, me and Das will do his, me and other friends will do theirs, kind of thing. Because I like doing the Origins interview thing because it creates conversation, and I'm sure you have, and I'm glad that I'm bringing the new blood in here, folks. You have all kinds of ideas for topic discussions like we've already mentioned in this episode, kind of thing. The other thing ToyCast is we are becoming a toy police department. This is your fault.
Oh, yes.
This is the whole reason why ToyCast is coming back, folks, besides the fact that I know Gary, a.k.a. Optimus Scourge, would want me to continue on with the show. It's because Josh posted something in the Toy World Order fan group on Facebook that he wanted to start a toy crimes police department. And I'm like, hey, if we do it as an audio podcast, I've got everything all set up for you. All you got to do is show up and talk.
And what's funny is that it started as a joke between Das and I, because I love the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yep.
And I love that it takes a comedic look at a very difficult profession and really develops some really great characters. And it just kind of occurred to me that what do most people complain about on a regular basis? It's things that are perceived as crimes, whether they're just social crimes against what you consider to be the norms of society, or are they actually legitimately crimes? Do they break some sort of store or legal statute somewhere? And at first it was kind of like, oh, well, so-and-so hid a toy over in Target and I couldn't find it and they bought it later, blah, blah, blah. but I think it would be very interesting to actually have a discussion about a specified crime and determine, indeed, for once and for all, is it a actual, can we call it a crime? Like, can we label it as a crime based on our criteria? And how do we prosecute that in the court of law? No, I'm just kidding. We're not prosecuting anybody, but.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a drama, folks. It's not like it's the real thing. This is all for pretend. We're going to come up with fictional. We actually already have, like, Das, Josh, and I are the officers, detectives, whatever you want to call us. I think Dave is going to be the chief at some point, and I don't know what Dave is doing.
And I'm hoping all of this comes together, you know.
I really am too, because we are going to sit down and write all of this out one night. I've got some things written down, but like for me, like when you posted this, I'm like, holy crap, I have all these ideas. Now, original ideas that I wrote down were what the case types would be. So, crimes against toys. Yes, that's right. It's a cat, folks. Crimes against dolls. That's right. They are cads. Now, the rest of these are just, they could be anything, but I was trying to do alliteration. So, Mego misdemeanors, Funko fraud, Transformers trafficking, kind of thing. So, and the tagline that this thing is going to have is fighting toy crimes one toy at a time. So that's the tagline, but it will basically be a fictional radio drama type thing. We're having a bunch of fun with it. Like, I was going to release ToyCast episode 100 and just call it a day on the show. Like, I did not have any plans. All I wanted to do was celebrate the fact that ToyCast has been around for 10 years, even though we haven't produced anything for the last 7, but it has been around and it is still available for people to listen to the old episodes. And I was just going to do this big 100th episode thing, which I am still doing, and then I was just going to call it a day, and okay, it's done. Because for me, once a podcast reaches something in the hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400, at any one point, you can call it a day. In come you with this idea, and it's like, I haven't felt the juices in my brain sizzle so hard in years. I'm like, yes, I can write all of this down. Yeah, we actually have, I don't remember her last name off the top of my head. We actually have one of the other Toy World Order fans in the group, Alexis. She wrote out a Law and Order thing for us in the criminal justice. And I've changed a little bit of this, Alexis. So if you're listening to this, I'll let you know that I did change a couple of things in this. In the criminal justice system, toy-based offenses are considered especially heinous. All over the internet, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious atrocities are members of an elite squad known as the Scalper Investigation Unit. These are their stories. Dun, dun.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm hoping I don't think she saw the comment. I'll probably have to friend her or message her or something. I'm hoping like she'll want to do the voice thing for that, and then I'll just, even though I know we'll probably get sued if I use this, but I will grab the Law and Order ding ding for it because I just love that.
What if we just auditorily did the ding ding and then, did it the cheap style? I think that would be a good option. No, I'm hoping we can get into all this. We've been talking about a lot of really great ideas. So
that's right.
One way or another, we are going to be talking about toy crimes.
Absolutely.
That's to be for certain.
So coming up next on the show, as I've been saying throughout this last hour-long episode, that we've been talking about Kane County and the Chicago Toy Show that's held at Kane County twice a year. Episode 100. Episode 100 is dedicated to the memory of Gary Clark, a.k.a. Optimus Scourge. It features, as I said at the beginning of the show, Pia. It features the goddamn Proto-Man. It features Steve Megatron, Mike the Birdman, as he likes to be called. It features all the people that I had on the show originally that actually responded to my message to want to be on the show again. To basically, the basic question for that episode is, how do you like having your collection? Kind of like how I asked you earlier, do you open it? Do you keep it in package? That kind of thing. And it's a jumping off point, and it's an anniversary thing. So once that comes out, after that, episode 101, 102, 103, 104 will be either Origins or it'll be Toy Crimes. Yep. That's the plan.
Sounds great.
without, rabid fan people coming after us. So, I don't know if you want to give out any of your social media stuff, and that's fine if you don't. But I have a standard outro that I go through. So, thank you for joining us here at the TCPD, or ToyCast. If you'd like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on this and all of our other episode posts. Here are all the ways you can listen to us nowadays: Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, and of course the home where our files exist, Spreaker. You can also use any other podcatching client you choose. However, I prefer you use one of these. I really dig Spotify for podcasts because I use Spotify for everything else at this point. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Yes, iTunes is still a thing for Windows computers. Follow us on Twitter. The network is at GeekCast Radio. The show is at TF ToyCast. A little behind-the-scenes story on that. The show was originally Transformers ToyCast, and all we talked about was Transformers toys. So, but that's what the Twitter is for the show. I am at TFG and Mike. Would you like to give out your Twitter?
I don't really have one that I use for toy-specific stuff.
Okay.
It's more me being a doofus and thinking I'm funny, so I'll keep that in my pocket until we get going with this.
Okay.
But I'm going to give a shout out to Times Past Collectibles in Chicago. Great new toy shop. Reach out to Mike Tommaso over there. The dude is very reasonable. He's a very good guy, very knowledgeable. I've done a lot of good work for him, and I'm hoping to continue working with the shop as time continues, as COVID gets better.
Yep.
So, he's a small local business in Chicago. Check him out. If you're in the Chicagoland area, it's worth a stop. Chicago is becoming a bit of a mecca for toy shops, so I do recommend it if you're going to any other shops. But go to that one first. They have a wide variety of modern to vintage. They have beaters to pristine, right fresh out of a case type of stuff. So really, really recommend it. And there's a lot of good restaurants all up and down that area. So you can have a nice little afternoon.
Absolutely. And as I said at the beginning and throughout the show, all of the links to the various things will be in the show notes. I think they only have a Facebook page for the shop, so the Facebook page for the toy shop will be in the show notes as well.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
All right, let's try this one more time for the back, folks. For now, I am TF2 and Mike with
the FloorBurger.
Why you want to eat your burgers on the floor?
Because tables are way too complicated and elitist. I'm not an elitist.
We are saying, or I am saying, or whatever is saying, because I haven't come up with an end catchphrase for this show yet, because it's been 7 flipping years since I've done one of these episodes. We will catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
I've been instructed to warn you. You're making an unauthorized exit.